We're going to take a final look at Armbrust. Gino Kowalewski, his good services have provided for us with his scanning material from the Mount Pleasant Historical Society, some material about Armbrust that is probably worth passing on. This is the middle part of Armbrust that we're going to be looking at. From over on the hillside over here, we'll be looking down this way and seeing some items in this area. Now, this is a photograph, probably around 1930, and it is rather murky. Even at this stage, I worked on it and tried to improve it on the computer, but this is the best I could do, actually. What I did was, after I worked on it on the computer a bit, I worked on it by hand, trying to explain some things, showing things like the church here, the trolley car, the old mill, the covered bridge. We'll move on here to something else. This is a plan of lots that was laid out in 1941 of Armbrust. Armbrust was definitely not new in that year. As a matter of fact, the Armbrust family didn't show up there until 1860, and long before that there was habitation there. The Weavers were in the neighborhood. We know of an old fellow who ran an inn around there, and that could be Weaver's old stand, but I don't have that for sure. The Armbrusts were rather literate people. They had a lot to write, but they tended not to write about the Weavers at all, as though almost as though the Weavers never happened. This is the church on the hill here, going up the hill. This is 819 going through the town. We're up on a hill looking down. This is where the trolley car stopped. This is a trolley car. The trolley went right through here, right through this area. And in the background, there's this building, which was the old mill. It had been in the Chambers family in the 1850s. When Wilhelm Armbrust showed up in 1860, he bought the old mill, which preceded this. It was an old log mill. There were two mills. There was a mill for grain and a mill for cutting wood. And then William built this frame building, which became the mill in Armbrust, which was a more modern type of thing. Over here was the building. It was a covered bridge, and it went across the stream there, Sewickley Creek, Big Sewickley, until the mid-1930s. You can find a newspaper article from 1934 that tells you that it's going to be destroyed in the name of progress. There's a new 819, what we think of as 819, is going to be improved and put down through here. Up on the hillside, there's also a schoolhouse, which this may be it or it may not. Trying to point out the various features of this was rather difficult. This is a newspaper article originally published in 1934. You can hardly see it here, but this was the bridge, the covered bridge, going over the little Sewickley, the big Sewickley. And this was the mill where grain was ground, and also there was a mill right beside it where lumber was cut. This is about the Armbrust family. The original Armbrust came from Germany and showed up in this country around 1804, made his way to Greensburg. It seems like he stayed in Greensburg, and he worked as a newspaper, in the newspaper, one of the first German newspapers in the area. He wrote for the newspaper. He also taught in schools. He was known as a school teacher. He taught German in the local schools. One of his sons, Wilhelm down here, William, grew up there in Greensburg and moved to New Stanton and Adamsburg and worked as a tradesman, a cabinet maker. And then he was the one who originally moved to what became Armbrust. The first Armbrust family member didn't get to Armbrust until 1860. And he bought an old log mill, which he ran. He also had a farm. And his son then, Jonas, this guy, Jonas William Armbrust, lived on after him, and he became a postmaster at Armbrust. And since he was postmaster, he was in a good position to petition the federal government to change the name of the town from Weaver's Old Stand to Armbrust. This is one of the daughters of Jonas Armbrust, reading some of the things that were written down. The Armbrusts were literate people. They wrote things down. But they tended to write things in a way that the Armbrusts were the ones who founded the place, but they weren't. The Weavers are totally neglected in the writing, and we don't know a whole lot about the Weavers, but we know a lot about the Armbrusts. That'll be enough. Okay, bye now.